The second level training for the category 4 is very important because it deals with the anti-aging products that I call hormonal products. Now, if I had my way, I would call this fourth category of products that we're training on hormonal products. But unfortunately today, there's two reasons why I'm not doing that. The first is that hormonal products have been misunderstood because there have been some very poor imitation products that have been on the market, number one. The second reason is that the governments as a whole are kind of sensitive about regulating hormones, and for some very good reason, because it has to be done wisely. In the hormonal category, or the anti-aging category, as I call it, category 4, the main product is this insulin growth factor spray. Now, this is a very important product, and you just simply spray it under your tongue. I like to do it 2 or 3 times a day. And you do it on an empty stomach. Now, the reason why you do it on an empty stomach is because the potency of the product is in parts per million. Insulin growth factor is a hormone that is produced by the liver that results in a cascade of other hormones. For example, luteinizing hormone is a hormone that's necessary for normal libido and sexual function. And progesterone is a important hormone that helps to regulate female chemistry, and in addition to estrogen. And there's also testosterone for men. There's many, many hormones that regulate the whole biochemistry. And I believe that in the decades to come, hormonal balancing will be primary in anti-aging research. So what we've decided to do is keep the whole anti-aging category of hormonal balancing very short, very simple, but very effective. And it starts with this insulin growth factor spray. Now, the insulin growth factor spray also contains growth hormone. Now, the first question that comes up, or often comes up in your training, of course, is what do these hormones do? Now, growth hormone, which is produced by the pituitary gland, triggers the release of the insulin growth hormone in the liver. That's what growth hormone does. Now, the indirect result of growth hormone, the benefits, are the benefits that are produced by the insulin growth factor in the liver. So at this second level training, I want you to really be clear on this as you're training other people, that there's these two hormones that work in kind of a phase 1 and phase 2. So phase 1 is the pituitary producing the growth hormone, and that declines with age. Starting about 25, particularly 30, we produce less and less of that growth hormone. And as a result of producing less growth hormone, there's less of the insulin growth factor in the liver. A question could come up, well, if it's really the insulin growth factor that's doing the work, and the growth hormone is just a precursor to that, why even bother with the growth hormone in the spray? Well, the reason is that by having the growth hormone in the spray, you're encouraging the liver to naturally produce its own insulin growth factor. And by having some insulin growth factor in the spray, then you're guaranteeing there's going to be results of the insulin growth factor. Very few companies in the world combine insulin growth factor with growth hormone. The two together are very, very powerful. And we worked with the retired UN scientist, Dr. Saskia Cipoletti, and also Dr. Boris Shushan, a theoretical chemist, on this product for years to get just the ratios balanced perfectly. Again, we take it on an empty stomach because the parts per million are so small that if you eat it with a pizza or a cup of coffee, we don't want it to fight in the sublingual gland. It's actually absorbed in the sublingual gland under the tongue. We don't want any residue of food there. Taking it at night is an ideal time. You can take it throughout the day as well, but taking it at night is an ideal time because the growth hormone and the insulin growth factor are released during sleep. There's some Chinese businessmen that I gave a few of my products to, and they found their sleep improved tremendously with this product. And also, as I mentioned on the level 1 training, some individuals that are aging 60s and 70s, men who had to get up to go to the bathroom, say 3 times a night, it was reduced to 1. There's been quite a few very quick results as a result of this spray. However, we don't always believe in recommending to the people you're training that they talk about only the quick results, because sometimes it could take longer for people to have results. There's no harm to this product because the potency is low. Part of the trick in making this is have the potency be high enough so it'll work, but not so high that it could impair the system. There are people right now that are taking growth hormone shots, and I'm concerned about that because I think that although that type of high potency hormone injection could produce short-term benefits, it could produce long-term negative side effects such as shortened lifespan, because if you overamp aging glands, they may atrophy or age faster, even though you can have short-term benefit. I describe it like putting a Porsche carburetor on your 4-cylinder Chevy to drive to the local store. You don't want to overdo it. So that insulin growth factor spray is number 1 in the anti-aging hormonal category 4. One question that comes up, this technical question, is do you use real growth hormone and real insulin growth factor? And if so, is it from an animal? Now, originally, when we did our research years ago, we used the real growth hormone and the real insulin growth factor, which was produced in a laboratory from mammalian cells. That's mammal cells. So yes, those are animal cells produced in a lab. They're kept perpetually alive in a lab. However, when Dr. Saskia Cipolleti and I co-formulated this formula, she recommended that we use a protein molecule that perfectly matches the growth hormone and the insulin growth factor. She told me that in her opinion it would be slightly more effective because there is always a chance when you use an animal molecule that the body may resist it. And she said because of that possibility in some people, that it could reduce the effectiveness of the spray, she recommended we use an amino acid peptide molecule. So we call this product amino acid peptide spray. And the reason why we have these anti-aging hormonal products as category 4 is simply because they're rather technical. And the average person doesn't really understand them. And they tend to be rather expensive. On the internet, most of the growth hormone sprays are $60 US or $80. Our product is quite a bit more affordable than that, and it also has the more expensive insulin growth factor spray in it. But it is a bit technical, and that's why we listed it as category 4. In your training, if you have any physicians or people that are involved, naturopathic doctors, they'll understand this product very, very easily. And they'll also be very skeptical of it because they would have heard about the inferior products that weren't very effective. In the hormonal category, we also have developed an estriol-3 cream. We developed a couple of creams. Now, we have a cream for women that's called a progesterone cream. And progesterone creams are well known. We worked with a Dr. Rob McClintock in the States testing our progesterone cream. And Dr. Rob McClintock, he goes to the Dominican Republic. And I'd like to interject that he found that the organic plant acid family worked on fungi diseases on the skin in the Dominican Republic where nothing else worked. In fact, he tells the story of a woman who had a fungi infection and really was ruining her life because every time she was in a hot climate it got worse. And now, but it was corrected quite quickly with the Nutra OPA family of products. And so he advised me, he's the second doctor who advised me on the progesterone cream. So we made one according to the amounts of progesterone that he advised us to use. And he came back to us and said, it seems to be about 15% too strong. Are you sure you did your math right? Because the previous cream we had was the same, but the saliva test showed 15% less results. And I said, yes, I think we did the math correctly. And he said, well, let's retest it. So he retested it for another few months and said, okay, it's a little bit stronger, but we'll go with it. And the theory behind that improved quality is the fast absorption, again, of the small MSM molecule. Because it's not about, again, adding just the high-potency nutraceuticals, or hormones in this case, but it's the absorption. So the progesterone cream that we have is very important for regulating the changes of life that women go through and changes in menopause. Very, very important in mood swings and hot flashes. Then more recently, we were asked by a top clinic, dermatology clinic in Vancouver, Canada, to develop an estriol-3 cream. Now, there's 3 types of estrogen. And again, in these anti-aging hormonal products, we have to talk very technically about these hormones. Most estrogen, when it's tested, is an estrogen 2. And estrogen 3 is estriol. It normally comes out in the urine. And concerns about having too much estrogen are really because it's important not to have too much estrogen 1 or 2. But estrogen 3 is not a concern. And that's why you don't hear about it too much, estriol. Now, in certain political climates where estrogen is maybe a bad word, we could use the word phytoestrogen, which means a substance that triggers the natural results or natural manufacturing of estrogen by the body. We could instead of estriol-3, we could call it phytoestrogen. But technical terms aside, in the University of Vienna, they've shown lessening of fine lines and wrinkles after a few weeks and more flexibility in the skin. And this has been published in the Dermatology International magazine. And it's well recognized that this product works. What we did as a company is we took our spa serum that we've already talked about that is very effective for repair, the #1 product in the 4-step repair program, and we added the estriol-3 to it at 0.3%, which is the internationally recognized amount. This product is a world-class product that can be sold easily over $100. And it normally comes in a bottle like this, something like that, kind of a fancy bottle with a little matte silver on it. And these bottles are kind of expensive, but when you're selling a product for more than $100, we believe it's important to have a good bottle like that. So that's a brief summary of the 3 hormonal products.